Hi listeners, Quinn here, putting this out front to let you know about the official Failure to Launch merch store. If you've ever wanted to wear or display space history, you can find clothes and posters at failuretolaunch.bigcartel.com. We've got all kinds of wonderful art like the Apollo Engineering Ronin, Jack Parsons Tarot card, and the First Orbital War 1988. If any of that sounds good to you, you can find a link below in the description. Thank you, and here's the show.
We had a pretty large bang associated with the caution warning now. Okay, as we have an apparent serious oxygen leak. 4, 3, 2, 1. Houston, we've had a problem. He's in a roll and he can't stop it. Performing an evasive maneuver. Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. Welcome to space.
Listeners, I am being denied the milk in my fridge.
Yeah, because it's your job.
I'm a prisoner of conscience.
Hello, listener, and welcome to Failure to Launch, the space history podcast where we take you through all the mistakes, failures, and explosions that made modern space exploration possible. We are your hosts, Quinn, he, him.
Chris, he, him.
And a glitchy Chris, he, him.
And today, we're talking about the gunman who almost killed 8 cosmonauts.
And someone that they should have.
I realize I may have come at that a little too happy. I'm standing at my standing desk right now, and you couldn't see, but I put my arms out beside me like I'm presenting something.
You fucking elitist standing at my standing desk. Oh, look at me.
I did read the Google Drive folder, but I'm still that was the only warning I had really for what the subject material was going to be.
I think I gave, and I think I gave the Discord server as well, enough warning of we're talking about the dude who charged a cosmonaut limousine motorcade while dual wielding Makarovs.
Okay.
Quinn, I need you to understand that I am not here, I spent all day in the clouds.
Yeah.
I don't really remember what happened today.
I don't often side with cops, but when the other option is, okay, cool, we're going to be dual wielding Makarovs, or I just run someone over with an ISH 30 motorcycle or some shit like that.
What if I complicate it a little bit by saying that the guy was dressed as a cop while he did it? And he was also a defector from the Soviet military. So yeah, that is what we are going to be talking about today. Listener, full context on this. I thought this was going to be kind of like a quick stocking stuffer kind of episode. Not to devalue it, but just something, short and sweet and get it out the door. And then I started doing research on it, and then I couldn't stop, which is why it is now a 2-part series. There's some fun stuff to talk about here.
Damn, scope creep can happen to anyone. Watch out, listener.
Yes, this podcast is horribly engineered. But before that, how's everyone doing?
A question that has already been answered by my "I'm medicated and not all here" t-shirt.
You exist within the cloud. You are on AWS.
Consciousness is a concept.
Whoa. One that you possess?
Presence is a concept, it's all just theory at this point.
Schrodinger's, yeah, I
know that I'm alive and that I'm a person, but I don't know, I'm just the electricity in the meat suit right now. I don't know what to tell you.
Is your electric meatball having a time? You are
a meat puppet animated by electrotransmitters or whatever.
No, he's an electric meatball and he's my favorite one.
I do have something to throw onto this pile because, as fans may be aware, I was in Australia for a few weeks visiting family. That was great. And I got back to a different world than I expected. Specifically, I mean, my little neighborhood. I can't speak for any other Canadians. I can't speak for anyone else in Ottawa, but I have been getting submarine ads on my phone nonstop since getting home.
Submarine
ads. So Ottawa NDHQ, National Defense HQ, is there, and they want to buy submarines, and there's 2 submarines, and all around there and all through the city now there are ads for like the Hanwha CSS-3 submarine, and I'm giving them free advertising right now. It's everywhere. Of just like as though I, a podcaster, have the sway, have the ability to influence, as though I'm going to like
the not Canadian ballistic missile.
I know it's not a ballistic missile. It's like I don't know. It's like a hunter killer or something. But still, like just the fact that I don't know. Like, have you guys ever been to an airport and noticed how different the ads are at an airport compared to like normal?
Yes.
I can't say that I've really paid that much attention.
What, some of like the incredibly hyper, what's called focused ads?
Yeah. Like the ads that are very much focused at like rich people and people with a lot of sway in business.
No, Quinn, what you're forgetting is that in South Korean service, that submarine does actually have the capability of launching ballistic missiles.
I thought they just had a different one for doing that. But oh well. Like the fact still being like I have never seen ads like this escape the airport.
You can still have the KSS-3 built for Korea, and then the KSS-3 for, hey, listen, we covered up the hatches. You got some leaves in there. You're going to feel right at home, bud. Here,
though, is the actual Canadian version of that submarine. We make the Canadian localized version. However, it has the Gerald Bull space gun on the front, like in fucking Ace Combat, like the Alicorn.
No, Quinn, we talked
what do you mean,
about
no,
this.
That's the perfect idea.
No, it's because you're leaving out something, and it's the fucking Browning the Browning high power. One has to be built into every single hull, or a very certain agency is going to be very angry that you didn't include them.
But yeah, that's one thing I've been dealing with, which is just like, for some reason, some marketing department thinks that I need to know about a diesel electric submarine and how cool it is.
Okay, so I wish I had that. Instead, I just get join Border Patrol, join Border Patrol, join Border Patrol, join the Coast Guard, join the Coast Guard.
Okay, they don't even have submarines. The fuck are you talking about? I am the single issue person. Like, I am the one person who needs submarine ads.
You can get me in a submarine lickety split, but no, that is the single thing you have not pointed in my direction.
You are the singular person that Hanwha should be advertising at, and just like. Nope. Then again, I do read Covert Shores a lot, so maybe it is targeted.
Is there a diesel electric submarine in my area?
Going out on like the widow's watch outside, like going out on the balcony with like a rose in one hand, just waiting for the day.
Where is my diesel electric?
I look off and I see it. I see it from my apartment. I see the submarine rise out of the Ottawa River.
Waving the biggest Canadian flag you can ever imagine.
Yeah.
Hold up, this brings about a darker future. Where's my fucking Quebecois separatist?
Oh no. All right, so I will get us into this. On January 22nd, 1969, Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev was traveling by motorcade through Moscow with 8 cosmonauts for a ceremony. The ceremony was to honor the achievements of 4 of those space travelers, specifically the crews of Soyuz 4 and 5, which just a few days earlier had conducted the Soviet space program's first orbital docking and mankind's first crew transfer in space. For a space program that was still dealing with the loss of Vladimir Komarov on Soyuz 1 and was falling behind in the space race with NASA, the dual missions were a huge success, and the ceremony would be a well-needed morale boost for the cosmonaut corps.
I was going to say, that sounds like an absolute shot in the arm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. However, as the 4 black limousines passed through Borovitsky Gate, a man in a police uniform stepped out of the crowd and opened fire with a pistol in each hand. That man was 21-year-old Viktor Ilyin from Leningrad, and him and his story and this whole situation is what we are going to be talking about today.
And that man was Albert Einstein.
Einstein.
Yes, we're basically in the Command and Conquer timeline. Albert Einstein did invent time travel, did go back specifically to kill these cosmonauts,
and then got smoked in turn.
Yeah. So this is going to be a bit of a weird one. I originally planned for it to be a short one-off episode because the assassination attempt doesn't really have a lot of like good literature on it. In fact, most of the details were covered up until the fall of the Soviet Union, and that cover-up is widely considered one of like the best executed. There are Western intelligence analyses that are specifically saying like, yo, the Soviets did a good job on this one. We can't find shit. However, in researching the context for this story, I found a lot more info that I knew we would have to talk about. So this is now going to be a two-part series. It is also not going to focus exclusively on Viktor Ilyin, but will instead be an exploration of just a bunch of related events, all of them happening around the same time and related to each other. If you do want one thing that binds this whole story together, it is this. Between the 15th and 22nd of January, 1969, cosmonaut Boris Volynov had the worst week of his life. And because of all that, I don't have one clear, concise source to point to. Instead, I cobbled this script together from a few chapters of books like Into the Cosmos, as well as articles from Russian space journalist and historian Anatoly Zak. As always, all sources will be down below in the description.
Soyuz 4 and 5.
Now, just because of how this event played out, I need to give context on two stories. I need to explain how Viktor Ilyin came to be in Moscow with a pair of guns, and I need to explain why the Soviet premier and 8 cosmonauts were there to be shot at. So let's start with the cosmonauts. The ceremony that the cosmonauts were to attend was in honor of the recent Soyuz 4 and 5 joint missions. We've talked about it in earlier episodes, but in the mid-60s, when Sergei Korolev's OKB-1 was developing its new Soyuz spacecraft, the Soviet space program didn't have the incremental mission plans like NASA did. In both NASA's Gemini and Apollo programs, the idea was generally for each mission to test one thing and then have the next mission kind of build off of that, like one piece at a time. And yeah, there were some exceptions to that. There were some attempts, especially like Gemini 8, I believe, was an attempt to pretty much do everything. But NASA pretty quickly learned their lesson and adopted an incremental approach. But the Soviet method was the complete opposite. If you listen to our series on Soyuz 1, you'll know that Soyuz 1 was supposed to be part of the same planned dual mission. One spacecraft would be launched with one lone cosmonaut in it, while the second would fly with 3. Once in orbit, they would rendezvous, dock, and one cosmonaut would spacewalk over to the other ship, board it. They would undock and they would all fly home separately. Keep in mind that every one of those steps I talked about, like the rendezvous, the docking, the crew transfer, the undocking, all of that would be the first time any of those were attempted by the Soviets. It would have, this mission would have 3 or 4 big firsts on it, and all of them would have to go off without a hitch. This is notably not a good way to plan a mission, because again, if one little thing goes wrong, it doesn't work. And obviously this did not work the first time. Soyuz 1 started experiencing so many problems so quickly that they actually scrubbed the launch of the second mission altogether. And then later on, when Soyuz 1 failed entirely and cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov died, it delayed the entire Soyuz program more than a year, while engineers tried to prevent future accidents. And still, through this entire process, no one updated the mission plan. They would keep hammering the same idea. As soon as the Soyuzes were ready to fly again, they would just do the exact same mission plan, and this time it would work probably, definitely, asterisk. Just definition of insanity stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna work.
Yeah, we just have to keep trying. It'll work.
It's ordained by God. Come on.
So in late 1968, Soyuz 2 and 3 were launched. Of these, Soyuz 2 was completely unmanned, while Soyuz 3 carried cosmonaut Georgy Beregovoy, definitely mispronouncing that, one of the original 20 and actually oldest of the cosmonauts. He was 47 when he flew, which is up there considering that every other cosmonaut was picked when they were in their, early 20s. Georgy was able to maneuver his spacecraft to rendezvous with the unmanned ship, but he failed to dock. Still, it was an important step in validating the new Soyuz. They had launched a person into space, and that person had not died. Hooray.
Hooray.
But to the leadership of the Soviet space program, the overall mission had failed. He hadn't achieved all of the firsts, so it didn't matter. So we're going for third time's the charm, everyone. No deviations, no exceptions. We're just exactly the same. Take it again.
Yeah, send it. Just do it. Doesn't matter.
A few months later, another dual mission was planned, Soyuz 4 and 5. Soyuz 4 launched first with just one man aboard, cosmonaut Vladimir Shatilov. Soyuz 5 had 3 men crammed in with a pair of bulky EVA suits. So again, 3 people, 2 EVA suits crammed in with them, not just like the kind that they wear on lift, like these are full spacewalking suits. It's tight. And the crew is Boris Volynov, Alexei Yelisiev, and Yevgeny Krunov. And again, I cannot stress how cramped this all is. Like, they are Tetrised in there.
Just like we are going to be for the special episode. We're gonna workshop that one.
This time, everything in orbit worked as expected. The 2 spacecraft docked together, cosmonauts Yelisiev and Krunov put on their EVA suits, exited Soyuz 5, and spent 40 exhausting minutes clambering over to Soyuz 4's hatch, and became the first people in history to move from one spacecraft to another. Hooray!
That is actually pretty cool and also fucking terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I know we talk about this a lot. Actually, maybe we need to hammer on this more. Spacewalking is exhausting. Doing anything, like, you'd think it's, like, I'm going to float around freely. Like, doing anything on a spacewalk is slow. It is exhausting. Just moving the suit.
Well, I mean, considering the fact that, the suit is expanded, and you're having to fight against that the entire time.
It is incredibly exhausting. It is incredibly, like, calorically intensive just to move. Basically, these guys are moving out of one hatch. They're traversing maybe like 20 feet to get to the other hatch. This takes them 40 minutes.
I mean, we're also talking about, again, every single action take, maybe outside of Fingies, is going to be impeded.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you are fighting it every single step of the way.
If you think about just, okay, cool, I'm going to extend my arm, wham, it flies out because it wants to be straight because of pressure. Now, pull that back in, and suddenly you're pulling, an extra 45 pounds of force or something like that.
So, on January 16th, 1969, Soyuz 4 landed safely in Kazakhstan with 2 more crew members than it had launched with. The only thing that remained was to get Soyuz 5 and the sole cosmonaut, Boris Volynov, home. And that, it turns out, was going to be a huge problem. On January 18th, the landing area had been cleared and Volynov was ordered to begin his re-entry run. So for this, I'm going to quote from space journalist Anatoly Zak, but I want to give one little tidbit first. A Soyuz spacecraft has 3 distinct parts. It has the onion-shaped habitation module on top, it has the bell-shaped descent module in the middle, and the instrument module at the bottom, which has all of, like, the rockets and solar panels and batteries and whatnot. So we're all clear on that? Cool.
So that bottom section, that's basically everything that could be considered just life support and general sensors.
I don't know if it has the life support in it, but basically the instrument module could be, like, it could fly as a satellite if it needed to by itself. Okay. It is the space part.
I mean, that does make sense.
Yeah. Everything above that is meant to keep people alive, but the thing at the bottom, like, it's the service module is what you would call it on an American spacecraft. Quote, the habitation module separated with a violent jolt, but the instrument compartment failed to do so. Due to secrecy, Volynov had to avoid announcing the problem over the radio, and instead he just reported that he could see the solar panel through the window. Volynov assumed that ground controllers would realize what was happening since the solar panels were attached to the instrument compartment. Because of the failed separation, the flight control system of the descent module had a problem positioning the capsule tail first, so that its main heat shield would take the brunt of the incoming heat loads. Volynov hoped that increasing heat loads would soon tear off the flimsy solar panels and the instrument module itself. However, the module stubbornly stayed in place and the stack plunged into the searing heat of the dense atmosphere nose first. This is notably not what the spacecraft is designed to do. It has a heat shield on the bottom. It is meant to go tail first, bottom first. This thing is plowing in, like, it still has, literally just in the quote there, the solar panels are acting like wings. They are stabilizing it. It is flying like a lawn dart into plasma, basically. So one of the things that Volynov reports, and we know this because among the many changes to the Soyuz since Vladimir Komarov's death was the inclusion of a black box recorder. It was manually activated, and it was supposed to be fireproof, so that investigators could get some kind of info out of a crash. With literally nothing he could do to change his situation, Boris Volynov dutifully flicked on the recorder and began to calmly narrate what he thought was his death. This would be the most terrifying thing, dissociative thing for me. There is audio of this dude narrating, like, hey, here's what's happening in the spacecraft. The front hatch, he reported smelling burning resin from the seals of the hatch, which is taking the brunt of the reentry heat, and it's not supposed to.
Oh, God.
And like, again, he is just sitting there. He is calmly narrating or trying his best to be calm. Like, the spacecraft is flying nose first into the atmosphere with the Soyuz's main hatch taking the brunt of that heat. Volynov expected that hatch to give out at any moment. It would instantly depressurize the spacecraft, and then like a picosecond later, the entire interior would be washed in plasma. This is out of sunshine, basically. This is the guy just getting like vaporized in a quick little puff of nothing.
Awesome.
That's...
Yeah. So, just imagine, and like where he's sitting in the Soyuz, he is looking up at this hatch. Imagine you're just sitting there, like you can smell melting plastic coming from this thing, and you know that at any second, like the last thing you will see is a wave of like sun-hot plasma washing through that hatch, and then you're gone. So thankfully, the hatch held on long enough for the instrument module to separate, and there are two theories as to why. Either temperature sensors inside the module triggered some kind of backup, or it just, its fuel tanks just detonated. Either way, it fell away and the Soyuz slowly swung around to flying tail first, which meant that it let the heat shield do its job. But Volynov was not out of the woods. First off, the uncontrolled reentry meant that he wasn't in a controlled semi-glide the way most Soyuzes fly. He was falling like a rock. He was flying like a lawn dart. Not to mention, flying nose first meant that he was going way faster than expected and experiencing a lot more G-forces than expected. We've talked about this before, but like G-forces on reentry are never nice. But Volynov he was exposed to a consistent 9 Gs, which is fucking
nightmarish.
Yeah, that's like fighter pilot level. And this is for the entire period of his reentry, and he's still narrating his death. Which was
how long?
I'm not certain. It's on the order of minutes. So, yeah. 10 kilometers above the ground, the capsule's parachutes deployed and immediately got tangled together. We are incredibly close to another Soyuz 1 experience at this point. Like every single time Boris Volynov survives something, he is immediately put into another life-threatening situation. When the parachute fully inflated, it was able to somewhat untangle itself, but the capsule still came down faster than normal. Even worse, the braking rockets failed to fire. The landing was so rough that it smashed Volynov's teeth.
Ooh.
So he lands. This is not described as like his teeth shattering. It's not like his jaw clacked together. It's described as the landing being so rough that it jogged like the roots of his teeth loose. So they stay in his mouth, but he can't eat anything for a while because his teeth are just kind of like jangling around. Quoting Anatoly Zak again, as he opened the hatch, he was showered with the ashes of the burned resin in the sealant. The top surface of the hatch was pockmarked with frozen bubbles of melted metal. It was immediately clear that only some redundant strength of the hatch interface had helped avert a disaster. So like, holy fuck, dude had to like narrate what he thought was his death. I cannot imagine, like, jokes aside, I cannot imagine a more scary thing than that. He lands, he like smashes his jaw, and then he gets out to see like how close his spacecraft was to failing. Now, because of the ballistic descent, Volynov landed 600 kilometers away from where the recovery crew was expecting him. When he opened the capsule, he was greeted by the minus 38 degrees Celsius weather of the Kazakh steppe, which is basically the same thing in Fahrenheit. Even worse, the recovery crews did not know where he was. They were not able to track the capsule by the antenna in the damaged parachutes. Instead, it took a passing passenger jet to notice the capsule just sitting in the snow, and they radioed his position.
I can't imagine that. like having the worst 10 minutes of your entire life where you nearly died, and your reward for surviving that ordeal is to have your teeth broken and
just absolutely blessed out of your head.
Yeah.
Then to open the hatch of your capsule to step out into what is effectively tundra. So it's like you just narrowly avoided being burnt to a crisp by the atmosphere to being in a survival situation.
You get to
for
freeze
normal
now.
people. Yeah.
I wonder if for him that was actually like a good thing of like, oh, I hate fire so much, just doing like snow angels in the steppe.
Yeah, but for like precisely 45 seconds and then just dipping back into the capsule where it's still like, what, 120 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah. And yeah, again, like it's a situation where they don't know where you are. Like they lost track of you and your shit's all busted up. So like you have no way to get in contact with them.
No.
You are just out there in the middle of nowhere by yourself and you just have to hope that somebody finds you.
And if it weren't for a random passing passenger plane, I'm not going to say he would have died. They probably would have found him before then. Like capsules always have survival kits and whatnot, but like he's very lucky. And this part is not as relevant, but I just wanted to include it to like accentuate how much this sucked for Volynov. Whenever they came to rescue him, whenever the rescue crew finally arrived, he asked them for a cigarette and they were like, yeah, the only thing we've got is a Shipka, which is literally the cheapest, shittiest brand in the Soviet Union. I do appreciate him basically doing the Toyohiro Akiyama thing of just like, I hated this. Can I please, like, I want to get drunk and I want to smoke, please.
Don't worry, we got it off Temu. We're safe.
Yeah. And he could drink, though. After everything that happened, he could drink, though, because the impact had broken the roots of all his teeth. So his diet was down to juice and broth that he had to drink through a straw. Yeah. And the best part is, remember, he's going to a ceremony. He's got to be like smiling and waving. And because of secrecy, he could not let on that like his entire face is on fire the entire time. Like he's giving like a big grin. He's keeping his teeth together because if he doesn't, they will fall out like fucking chiclets. Although it would be hilarious.
I can see how they might want to keep him just loaded to the gills.
It would be hilarious though to see like the cosmonaut like Yuri Gagarin doing the big grin, except he's missing a couple of teeth like a goon. Hockey goon.
Yeah,
I gotta correct that. I know our listeners.
Yeah, he was jerking it too aggressively and blew out a couple of teeth.
And yeah, like officially the story is that everything went perfectly, so why would you have weird teeth? Because everything went perfectly.
I got into a fight with a bear on the ground.
Oh God, you're just like, you're at the ceremony and some waiter just comes by with hors d'oeuvres and is like, here, do you want this? It's hardtack. And you're just like, sure. The mission went fine.
Thank you. The mission went fine. Just not opening his jaws at all. Talking like this.
Oh, Boris, you have to try this.
When I like the idea that we're at the fucking cosmonaut gala or whatever,
it's
and the
Soviet
thing that
Union.
the thing that you're offering on like a little platter from a waiter is hardtack.
I'm sorry, I was trying to think of like what would be the absolute worst thing to try and eat if you had broken teeth. I did not really prep that one in advance. I don't know, like what's an hors d'oeuvre that would be absolute agony to eat if all of the roots of your teeth had been like jostled loose?
Ooh, anything that's like a hard cracker, and then anything that's like vaguely.
Oh God! Oh yeah.
Quinn, anything that isn't juice or broth. Come on, I mean it's that simple.
They've just like, in order to accommodate him, they've had to make a last minute change to the food. Like everyone is just, all the waiters are just carrying around like little cups of like soup.
Little shooters of soup.
I remember when I had my wisdom teeth removed.
I don't. The drugs are good.
They put you in a dunk tank, except it's just concrete underneath and you just fall on. They just pop right out. Yeah, so yeah, that is one way to look at it. Boris Volynov, he survived a fiery death, and his reward was to get frozen and then have his wisdom teeth mechanically removed. And yeah, so that is the brief story of Soyuz 4 and 5, the world's first docking between manned spacecraft and the first crew exchange ever conducted in space. And this is a big achievement, but this is also the Soviets' third time to get this right, and it very nearly killed a guy. Between the two spacecraft, all four cosmonauts were safely on the ground on January 18th in Baikonur Cosmodrome, and they did not get time to rest. The next couple of days were a whirlwind of multiple ceremonies and speeches. Much more than Soyuz 3, the dual missions of Soyuz 4 and 5 were a major propaganda win for the Soviets. Remember that, like, after Soyuz 1, the Soviets were grounded for almost 2 years. These two missions, this is like, we're back. We are in the game. We are, at this point, they're pretty much never going to, like, this is mid-1969. This is early 1969. They're not beating the Americans to the moon, but, like, this is a big we're back moment. And to some, people that I will call idiots, it also validated the Soviets' maximalist approach to stuffing missions full of as many tasks as possible. And they did play this up in the official Kremlin messaging. They were like, look, it took the Americans 10 missions to do what we completed in one, and never mind the fact that all of the failed missions that didn't officially happen, and also ignore the fact that the Americans did all 10 of their missions in like 1965.
Yeah, don't mind them.
Yeah, we're still winning. We still got this, guys. The crown jewel in these ceremonies would be held at the Kremlin on January 22nd. That morning, 8 cosmonauts, the 4 from the missions and 4 more, were flown to Vnukovo Airport in Moscow. They met Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev and Chairman of the Presidium Nikolai Podgorny, and they set off for Red Square in a 4-limousine motorcade. The event was well advertised. The streets were packed with cheering fans, and the triumphal crew of Soyuz 4 and 5 rode up front, exposed in a convertible for the world to see. Boris Volynov, I guess, like, grinning wide, like, really showing those pearly whites as they drove.
I was to say, either it's all just like all lips, or just everything is clenched together to keep it all in.
The twist ending here is that like all of the shots are going to hit Boris Volinov's teeth.
Yeah, they're ablative.
Yeah. They're bulletproof now. Oh, dude, they just like the way they like. We can rebuild him. We have the means. He's just Jaws from Bond.
Yeah, he just has like fucking Ghost level 4
titanium teeth.
Okay, Quinn, I have to admit,
okay,
that for some reason I thought that Volynov was going to be the shooter. I was thinking to myself the whole time as you're describing these details, I'm like, oh, so, well, originally I'm like, that's a horrible thing to have happen, to have your cosmonauts nearly assassinated. And I'm like, well, we're going to tell the story about the assassin, and the assassin was another cosmonaut. And I'm like, this is the most justified crash out ever.
I have no proof of this, but I do legitimately think that some of the details of this story made their way into like the conspiracy theories about Vladimir Komarov and Soyuz 1. Because, like all the stories about Soyuz 1 is, oh, he screamed his rage for the Kremlin as he burned to death. And, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't even in radio contact, but Boris Volynov was. He was speaking into a recorder. He was like narrating events. And yeah, like if a cosmonaut went postal, Boris Volynov would certainly be a contender for it. Instead, Boris Volynov, his week is about to get a lot worse.
He's about to get done up.
Honestly, yeah, like I'm trying to figure out what to name this series, and it may just come down to like Boris Volynov's like no good, awful week. The man who was almost burnt to death and then frozen to death, and then he had to drink a bunch of soup, and then he was shot at.
Okay, no, I like Boris Volinov's no good, very bad day.
I was going to say, like, this guy doesn't seem like he's ever going to catch a break, huh? It's just one thing after another with this guy.
I need to actually, let me look this up now. Let me see if he flew after. I believe he's still alive. Boris Volynov. Yeah, he's still alive. Okay, he flew on Soyuz 21, which was, okay, it just seems to have been a... I remember this one. Okay, no, we will talk about this. Boris Volynov did fly into space again, and he had another very, very bad time. Because whenever they reached
he had another no good, very bad day.
Yes. However, like he reaches the space station. Whenever they get there, the air is toxic inside of the station, and if I'm remembering this correct, let me just check, and we will talk about this in the future. This is the first medical
evacuation.
Yes. Nitric. Okay. So he flew up with a guy named Vitaly Zholobov. I'm remembering this now because Mary Roach interviewed both of these guys in Russia like 15 years ago.
Yo, shit sucked, and that's the interview.
Yeah. Zholobov's illness was apparently caused by nitric acid fumes leaking from the Salyut's propellant tanks into the pressure capsule, I will point out.
Ugh.
Yeah. They also suffered from a lack of sleep. They also apparently fought a whole bunch.
It was just the entire ride over just slapping each other just because it won't leave a bruise.
So yeah, basically this mission, it lasted. Okay, yeah, no, they did. They stayed up there. They stayed up there a while. 49 days. Okay. Precise reason for the early end. Okay, yeah. So this is a like Yeah, Boris Volynov's next flight ends early because of a medical emergency. But we need to talk about the other side of this story first. Hello, listener, and welcome to the mid-reel ad. If you enjoy Failure to Launch, more bad space history, and you want to hear more of it more often, there is an option, the FTL Patreon. Signing up at any tier gets you access to monthly bonus episodes and Q&As, and joining an elevated tier gets you even more content, like Chris-narrated minisodes. If that sounds good, you can sign up at www.patreon.com/failure to launch. And now, back to the episode.
Viktor Ilyin.
Viktor Ivanovich Ilyin was born on Boxing Day, 1947. And for those outside the Anglosphere, that is December 26th. Unfortunately, being born would quickly turn out to be a mixed experience for little Viktor. He was born in ruined Leningrad in 1947, shortly after the end of the war, and both his birth parents were violent and chronic alcoholics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
At age 2, he was taken away from them and sent to live with a foster family, who were also neglectful. Viktor later described himself, he is still alive by the way, as very quiet in school. In high school, he dreamed of becoming a geologist, and I'm going to quote from him. So he was interviewed a couple of times. The latest interview is in 2017, though I will have to caveat it at the end. And this is quoting from Viktor's recollections. Back then, this was considered the most romantic profession in the Soviet Union. Expeditions, new encounters, unexplored lands, songs by the campfire. I entered a topographical technical school, traveled to many cities and regions far from Leningrad, but what I saw left a depressing impression on me. Poverty, drunkenness, devastation. Not exactly what they showed on Soviet television. I understood that this was how the entire country lives, while the communists just lie shamelessly. In the beginning, I did not plan to carry out a terrorist act against the country's government. I drafted a reform plan, which included a monthly payment to each citizen for the sale of natural resources, and sent it to the Kremlin, to Brezhnev. But I didn't receive a reply. That's when I decided to kill him. I wanted everyone to know about my ideas, and this required a symbolic act. I plan to speak about the reform plan in court in my final words. We're pulling a Kibalchich.
No, you just beat me to that because I swear to God, I heard we're going to talk about it in court.
Yes.
Immediately occupied the same mental space as, okay, but have you considered my rocket? Have you considered my reform plan?
I have drafted a reform plan for the Soviet Union. I say as I am dragged out to the firing squad.
As I am actively being airholed.
After I have assassinated Premier Leonid Brezhnev.
Christ's sake.
I love this. I love that this is a tradition. Now, again, I do have to caveat this because there are a bunch of competing stories about why Viktor Ilyin did what he did. And Viktor himself has changed his story over the years and cannot be considered a reliable narrator. In the version he gave in 2017, Viktor Ilyin decided early on that he wanted to kill Leonid Brezhnev, and he voluntarily joined the army to get access to training and weapons as part of his plot. In this version, he was politically motivated to kill the premier out of his love for the country and its people, believing that his martyrdom would save them from the evils of communism, which is very convenient for a guy being interviewed by Russian state media in 2017, I'll say.
Tell us how that one worked out, will you?
Yeah. They've been totally freed, and I'm sure everyone in Russia is getting a stipend right at the moment.
We are totally freed. Why is that window open behind me?
It is kind of funny. In the interview, the Russian state media guy asks him like, "Oh, so what are your current political beliefs?" And like any good Russian nowadays, he's like, "I'm apolitical. I don't really track it. I care about God." Oh, you want to talk about something else?
You want to talk about God and my reform plan? Oh wait, shit.
Revealing two Makarovs. He like unholsters them across his chest.
You've heard too much. It's time to go.
Awesome.
Time to get Victored.
It's time to get Viktor.
Yeah. We'll talk about it, but he gets sent to a psychiatric hospital at the end of all this.
It's like that Despicable meme, or Despicable Me meme. Instead of you got Victored, you got vectored.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. So that is one version of the story. The other main version of this story is that when Viktor graduated from topology school, he was fully prepared to follow his dreams and become a geologist. But he was caught in the dragnet of Soviet conscription. And basically he got like really pissed off by this. This was normal for the times, 1968. Under Soviet law, any men between the age of 18 and 28 were expected to serve a 2-year contract with the Soviet military. Any full-time students, though, like people studying in university or technical colleges, were given a conscription deferment until they graduated, at which point they could then be conscripted into like more technical jobs, like officers or pilots.
Oh, look at them.
Yeah, there were obviously exceptions to the rule. For example, if a university had, like some universities had military courses in them, and if you did those courses, you didn't have to serve your conscription. You would just be like, you'd be a reservist, effectively.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Just being able to get around by taking, I don't know, Rifle 101.
Basically, yeah. Well, it would be more like, you know, you would be training to be a Soviet officer and you would become an officer in the Soviet reserves as opposed to the regular army. Also, kids of well-connected parents, so like apparatchiks, celebrities, military leaders, they could just find ways of sneaking through the cracks, or whether that be like studying abroad someplace.
What is this going to be like speedrunning Dedovshchina?
He doesn't go through like Dedovshchina.
Exactly.
And for context, listener, that is the famous and like horribly abusive hazing process of the Soviet and Russian military. It means reign of the grandfathers, which is just like if anyone has more seniority than you, they wail on you constantly. And then once someone new joins up, you get to be grandpa. Yay! Unfortunately, Viktor did not have any of these connections or luxuries, and he was conscripted as a lieutenant at a unit in his home of Leningrad. In this earlier version, Viktor says that he resented his conscription and the army effectively stealing 2 years of his life, kind of a more selfish reason. The final straw, though, was the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in August 1968. So, for context, this was a massive Warsaw Pact action involving the armies of 5 nations, East Germany, the Soviet Union, Poland, Hungary, and Bulgaria, to overthrow the communist government of Czechoslovakia. So we talked about similar things way back on our series on Sputnik, but the Soviet Union was generally not gentle with its Warsaw Pact allies, and multiple times invaded them to restore order. Anytime, like, this is always presented as the Soviets as like, oh, like there was a fascist revolution or something. And in every case, it's just a communist who was a little less dictatorial than they'd like. It was like, we want to do communism and we want to do democracy. Send in the tanks. Regardless, the Warsaw Pact invasion lasted 2 days and crushed the Czech military. Total casualties of soldiers and civilians were around 250. And while they succeeded in rolling back the reforms to the Czechoslovak government, the invasion also split the entire communist world and backfired horribly. Romania, a founding Warsaw Pact member, formally denounced the invasion. Albania did the same, and then they went further by completely withdrawing from the pact and allying with China. China called the invasion fascist politics, and they actively encouraged the Czech people to start a guerrilla war against the Soviets. And this also, like, I don't know, I went down a rabbit hole reading about this. It's not as related to the space side, but like this actively kills a bunch of international communist parties because they either like, it's kind of the origin, it's one of the origins of the word tanky. I think it started off properly with the Hungarian invasion before, but like it's this split between, are you a communist and you oppose war, or are you a communist and you do whatever the Soviets tell you to do? So like a bunch of communist parties denounce the invasion, a bunch of them accept it, and a bunch of them just like completely implode over not being able to pick. Womp
Gotcha.
womp. Yeah. And this is, at least in this earlier version that Viktor reported, this is what he says kind of like pushed him over the edge. So based on these two stories, he either joined the army to gain the skills that he needed to become like a martyr against communism, or he was pissed off at being conscripted into an imperialist juggernaut. These are the two options, kind of. It's unclear which is true. I don't trust Viktor as a narrator on either of them. I kind of believe he was pissed off more one. But in early 1969, Viktor Ilyin decided to act. He heard about the complete success of Soyuz 4 and 5 and how the cosmonauts would be honored with a grand motorcade through Moscow attended by Premier Leonid Brezhnev. Early on the morning of the 21st, Viktor snuck into the unit's armory while the sentry was asleep. He stole 2 Makarov pistols with ammo. He then left the base, took a train to the Leningrad airport, and caught a flight to Moscow. It's not completely clear how he got the police uniform. This is another thing where he changed the story. He either stole it from his brother-in-law in Leningrad, or he stole it from his uncle once he got to Moscow.
Okay.
Wearing the uniform, he was able to sneak into a police cordon, keeping the cheering crowds away from Borovitsky Gate. And Borovitsky Gate is the main, and still is today, the main way you can drive into Red Square. You pass through that gate, you're there. And at 2 p.m., when the motorcade rounded a corner and started driving through the gate into Red Square, Viktor stepped out of the cordon. He stepped into the street, he drew both pistols, and opened fire. And that, everyone, is where we are going to be leaving this one for now. Right on a cliffhanger. How do we all feel?
I know I was just kind of following saying, you know, our boy's no good, very bad day. But this is swiftly escalated.
Every single shot going right into Boris Volynov's one remaining wisdom tooth.
Except for the one shot that bounces off into the driver.
Yeah. He's fully... Did you read ahead? Did you read ahead? You have to tell me. You have to tell me if you read ahead about the driver.
Show Sonner. No, I did not read about the bullet that bounced off his tooth.
Yeah. Again, this was kind of a weird one overall, because it's not like this is like 50% talking about this almost failure of a mission. The way this guy almost died.
Wait, did you say the guy's name was Ilyin?
Yeah,
Viktor Ilyin.
Viktor Ilyin.
I'm imagining this as like, you know, we're ending the episode. Victor is drawing his guns akimbo Makarov, and it's slow-mo, pans over to, you know, pans out to
over to Volinov's teeth.
It slowly pans out to Volynov, and it's yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
Like panning around to the back of Viktor Ilyin's head, and he's just got the barcode tattoo. This is like some like cut rate hitman shit. He's even got like the silver ballers.
It's definitely a stretch to make a comparison between Makarovs and the silver ballers.
And between this 21-year-old geologist dweeb and Agent 47.
You cannot hit us with the Soviet silver ballers.
I don't know. For me, it's just like the combination of things in this story is why I was so excited to talk about it. The fact that, like, you know, obviously had something bad happened, had Boris Volynov died, as he came incredibly close to doing. I need to stress this. Anatoly Zak says this, and I believe him. I think it is true whenever he says that Boris Volynov is likely the luckiest man to ever travel in space, considering how close he came to getting vaporized.
Multiple times at that.
Yeah, like the fact that he gets out in Kazakhstan and he sees how damaged the hatch is, how close that hatch was to giving out and pinbackering him, but also the fact that at least in his more modern story for Russian state media, Viktor Ilyin is just like, I'm going to Kabalchich this, I'm going to murder the premier of the Soviet Union, and then I'm going to put the system on trial.
Okay, no, just imagine how much more effective he would have been if he had actually been ridden by the fucking soul of Kabalchich. Just a grenade jamboree.
So yeah. There was a lot more to this story than I expected, which is why I was so excited to talk about it. And I hope you guys had fun with it too.
You've only left me more ready to go.
And there will be more to go, because we are going to be talking about part 2 next.
Like, okay, the silver ballers are out.
Yeah, like we are starting next one. We are going to start with the first round, leaving that Makarov. That I'm willing to bet that Viktor has barely ever fired a gun at this point. He is not even a year into his mandatory service. He's a geologist. He's 21, and he's in a garrison in Leningrad. The first time
he fired one was accidentally into the ceiling, and then he just fucking ran.
Like, dude is not motor rifle battalion qualified.
Like, he's just fucking around, pap, ew, and then just gun in the pocket, sprinting.
I mean, like, the Kabalchich assassination at least had more kind of like pizzazz to it. There was even a badass one-liner, the whole like, don't thank God yet. This dude just kind of runs out and just starts like, pop, 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 pop. And then he gets body slammed by a motorcycle.
No, you want to know why? It's because he left the one-liner to the motorcycle cop. He just wheelied into him and just Soviet John Rambo the dude into the floor.
But until next time, listener, thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
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 Thank you to everyone who have signed up to support the show, and a big shout out to all of our top tier patrons. Our cyborg cats are Asho Rin, Boss, Kataiga Reptile, Charlie, Comrade Sleepy Bro, Daniel F, Graham E, Jesselyn T, Jorg 2, Schapen and Hitshonis Haveninga. I will have my revenge on the Dutch, by the way. Joss, Kamo, Lane of the Wired, Matt, Mobius Striptease, Murray Motorsports, Mysterious Stranger, Number Negative, General Incoherent Screaming. Sorry, I'm not doing that. Oil Drum, Pat, Paul C, Rare Scrungle Spingus, 3rd edition, Skylab Bricks, Source Force, Spectre Cohen, Tortilla Baron, Vivek D, and Wingsmith. Our space dogs are a Union Thug, A. Blinkan, Akiogo, Ariel Badger Release, Agent Carter, Alex, Alice N, Andrew K, Angie, Angry Old Man Yada Yada, Anthony C, Atomic Hobbit, Otto Fox, Avocado Assassin, Baron M, Bat Bay, Ben L, Big Meg, Binary Badger, Beanie, Boomzilla, Boring Brian, Brian L, C, Cantaloupe Was Taken, Chainsaw Snuggling, Charlotte M, Chris, Chris K, Christian K, Clay M, Cole C, Captain Lag, Daddy Bongo, Daniel, Darth Baby, David L, Des Smiley, Dom K, Drain Damage, Dr. Shockmaster, Duke of New York, Enk, Aaron, Eric J, FBH, Fractal Moonlight, Furious Luddite, George B, Grant K, Griffin, former snow shoveler of Burger King, Heiko S, Howl's Moving Pictures by Rush. I heard Stephen Miller is a pedophile. Isn't that crazy? I hope you have a good day. Ian R, Iggy Noramis, JMM, James A, James C, James T, Jamie K, Jarl Breadmaker, Jerry M, Jedediah D, Joanne's Man, Miss You Forever, John C, John E, John Boy D, Johnny Terrors, Jonathan G, Jonathan W, John Tastic 20x6, Joseph RH, Just Morse, Kate B, Kate D, King Bun, Corbin the Dog, Cruzzy, Lens Wipe, Lorgath, Luke O, Majestic Affect, Man Who Is Average, Mar, Marigold Muskrat, Marto, Mech Girl Alley, Michael C, Michelin Star Blemtro, Nish, Mr. Dr. John, Moomin Instrumentality Project, Narrow Ebb, Nelly W, New Name, Nicholas S, Nick, Nick S, Norman W, Northeast Driver, NSFW NSA, Outlook Cov, P Vector, Panda, Pat S, Patron, Petey, Poopbutt, Randall, Ray H, RBK, Rayto B, Riley, Robert G, Sailor of Fortune, Scott K, Sean F, Sean H, Central Kazoo, Sean P, Silly Vixen, Skyhawk, Something, Sparks, Spirit of Thunder, Starlight Foxalope, Swanee, The Best Sean, Thomas M, Tim P, Toasty Ken, Trash D, Virash T, Brisk, Will W, William O, William P, Winston P, Wouter S, Zachary JB, Zaf, Zemo, Zim, and Zombie Dwarf. Albert Count 214. Albert Count 214. Thank you for listening to another episode of Failure to Launch. If you want to follow us, we are Failure to Launch on Blue Sky and FT Launch Pod on Instagram. We also post our episodes with visual aids at Failure to Launch Podcast on YouTube. FTL intro and outro themes were provided by DJ Danarchy.